Welcome to Deep Rock Galactic, a 4-player co-op shooter, and one of the most charmingly enjoyable games you can currently play. In Deep Rock, you don't assume the role of a heroic protagonist or a soldier fighting against an oppressive empire, but you're instead a dwarf employee of a space mining company, meeting the performance targets of higher management. The basic premise of each mission is that you and your team are dropped into an underground biome on the planet of Harxis 4, told to extract a certain amount of a specific material before making a frantic dash to the escape pod before management writes you off as sunk cost. Throughout the mission, players will also have to contend with around 30 different types of hostile bug-like creatures that are native to each biome. Players are able to choose between 4 classes to play, which all have entirely unique weapons and equipment. The gunner is equipped with large rapid-firing primary weapons, a bubble shield that can provide much needed breathing room once enemy swarms become too numerous, and a zipline gun, which can transport the entire team to previously inaccessible locations. Gunners are known for their high sustained damage and enormous clutch potential when it comes to reviving fallen allies. Scouts are the second class, which are equipped with a grappling hook to quickly traverse anywhere they please, but can also use the flare gun, which can light up expansive caves for extended periods and make it infinitely easier for their team to complete the mission. Being equipped with an assault rifle doesn't make the scout as combative as the other classes, but players really miss the presence of a scout when they are forced to do missions without them. The third class is the driller, who is equipped with a flamethrower, super powerful C4 charges, and most importantly, his almighty drill. The value of the driller is not immediately apparent when first starting the game, as the terrain can be mined manually with pickaxes that come as standard for every class, but as you become more familiar with the game mechanics, you quickly realize that the driller is a fucking god among men. More on that later.
The Underminer!
The final class, and the one I chose to main, was the engineer, who comes packed with a shotgun, a deployable turret, and a platform gun. The platform gun in particular takes time to best understand its true potential, but you quickly realize that it can be used to make staircases to climb up cliff faces, and bridges to help movement impaired teammates. Engineers are known for their excellent area control, and it's quickly become my personal favorite class. From your class, almost every piece of equipment, from your armor, weapons, and utility, can be tuned using individual skill trees, and visually, by progressive unlocks. This means players will be getting something new to upgrade or equip every few missions, and allows for the same limited gear to be repurposed depending on the team. There's also a decently sized perk tree that spans over all classes. However, in terms of personal taste, these didn't seem nearly as strong or creative as they could otherwise be. Passive perks, like being able to carry slightly more material before having to deposit, or being able to throw flares further, are nice, but in a game where you don't need to worry about any sort of counterplay, it seems like a missed opportunity to not make them more interesting. Perks like the hover boots were such an excellent addition once gaining access to them, but few others managed to live up to their fun factor. Other cooperative games like Vermintide and Payday are far braver when it comes to their perk trees and allowing more perks to be equipped at once, and for the perks themselves to alter a class entirely seems to be such an efficient way to prolong a game's lasting power. However, even in its current state, they've nevertheless done an exceptional job.
Oh! The Underminer's been grabbed!
It's also worth mentioning that every single level you play in Deep Rock Galactic is entirely procedurally generated, meaning that every cavern you explore with your team will never have been played by anyone else before. I'm personally always skeptical of procedurally generated worlds, as my own opinion has usually been that smaller handcrafted levels will always be better than those that are larger. Deep Rock Galactic absolutely changed my mind with what an excellent use of procedural generation can yield. Although they aren't handcrafted, every level exudes its own character in a way that it has no right to do so. Reaching the escape pod and leaving the mission can be a strangely bittersweet moment, as although you've come away with valuable resources and a step closer to your next assignment, you leave with the knowledge that neither you or anyone on Earth will ever experience what you've just had the pleasure to explore and ultimately conquer. The whole concept of the enemies all being bug-like creatures is also such a smart idea by the developers, as you realize that only the players themselves don't have the ability to either fly or crawl on walls, allowing the devs to make cheeky shortcuts to better accommodate their AI. The technical brilliance of Deep Rock Galactic may indeed be its crowning achievement. Not only does it only take around 15 seconds between starting a mission and actually having dwarf boots on the surface, and not only can players drop into your game at any point during a mission, but the download size is somehow less than 2 GB. This entire game is the equivalent to a blade of grass in Call of Duty Warzone. One mechanic that viewers will have noticed is the large focus on light, with every cave being almost impossible to navigate without going out of your way to improve visibility. Every class is equipped with rechargeable flares that can be used to illuminate the immediate area, with only the scout getting access to the much more potent flare gun. Having light as another resource to manage not only creates another interesting layer to an already remarkable game, but so expertly implements a mechanic usually only reserved for horror titles. To this day, I've yet to see another game use light better than Deep Rock, and it's such a simple way to give the scout class so much more value in a team. With this being said, there's actually an equipment slot for each class that includes standard flares, so hopefully the developers are planning to expand the illumination options available. One overlooked aspect when joining a game that is consistently being updated is the collective community itself, and every title seems to exude its own flavor, which is largely depending on the culture the game is able to foster. Battlefield players tend to care a lot about their PC builds because the series has historically been on the bleeding edge of graphical fidelity, and hyper-competitive games like League of Legends and Valorant have unfortunate reputations for toxicity owing to the unforgiving nature of their game mechanics. Deep Rock Galactic follows the usual cooperative title trend of their community being unusually supportive, as others within the game find pride in helping newer players to learn the ropes.
Time to die, motherfucker!
Players will learn the basics of the game within only an hour of playtime, but more advanced techniques will likely only be learned after seeing it demonstrated by experienced miners. It took around 25 hours of playtime before first experiencing the galaxy brain potential of the driller class. Players were able to forego the navigation of cave systems entirely by just pointing in the direction they needed to go and digging in a straight line directly towards the objective. What was even more impressive was witnessing players dig underneath objectives that needed to be defended, seal off the top with the engineer's platform gun, then simply carve an easily manageable choke point that forces enemies to funnel through. It's uncertain whether this kind of creative strategy was ever intended to be used in such a way, but it's just one example of how the Deep Rock community has learned and thrived as a supportive unit. After reaching level 25 with a particular class, you'll be given one last assignment to be promoted, which will grant you with a special star on your portrait, but more importantly, give you access to endgame content. The endgame consists of deep dives, which are difficult preset missions that need to be completed back to back, and can only be joined by other promoted players. Only 2 of these dives are available per week, but completing them gives players the chance to earn exclusive cosmetics, as well as weapon overclocks, which are unique modifiers that change the balance of each weapon. These modifiers range from things as simple as expanded ammo capacity, all the way up to fundamentally altering how a weapon functions. Getting to participate in these more difficult raid-like missions is the best content Deep Rock has to offer, and being part of a team that performs their role with brutal efficiency felt like the grand vision of the developers, where a team of unique specialists combine their skills to achieve the impossible milestones set by higher management. The downside of the endgame is that although you won't ever get duplicates of a specific item, you likewise don't have any agency to choose which overclocks you'd like to earn. This often means that you'll be getting modifiers for classes that you may not use as much as others, and as much as this is great for encouraging more diverse playstyles, it would be a nice addition to have some way to grind for modifiers that look particularly interesting. In the scheme of things, this is a small complaint in an otherwise phenomenal title. Playing Deep Rock for even a few hours, players will quickly understand why it commands such a high score, even among much larger and better funded titles. Deep Rock is so unbelievably charming, and playing it is like remembering the offhanded compliment a girl told you 7 years ago, because you and I both fucking know that you'll never forget that, for as long as you live. Ghost Ship Games could have turned its cosmetic shop into an absolute cash sink for those looking to customize their dwarfs, but instead, everything is able to be bought generously with in-game currency or by completing previously mentioned end-game content. There are a handful of skins that can be bought through cosmetic DLC, but they're arguably not as good as the grindable gear, and I was more than happy to pay for that privilege, if only to support such excellent developers.
Now I'm the underminer!
I look back at my time with Deep Rock, and so many memories stand out as wonderful reminders of the pure enjoyment that can be had. One of the very first missions had our entire team wiped in the first minute because we failed to secure a safe route to the bottom of a cliffside. One time a scout player was able to call for my attention by using his laser pointer because he needed my assistance in giving him a platform to reach higher minerals. I remember making an impossible solo dash through an exceptionally complicated cave and only making it to the evacuation dropship by a mere 3 seconds. With every tragic team wipe after a hard-fought swarm, to every time a teammate hastily finishes his beer as the dropship leaves for its next mission, you can't help but look back on so many fond memories that Deep Rock allowed you to create. Ghost Ship Games don't have the scale of Ubisoft, the blank checks of Rockstar, or the fish AI of Infinity Ward, but their team has undoubtedly poured their heart and soul into this game, and it's so refreshing to see something so bold and technically impressive executed so expertly from such a new development studio.
Welcome to my humble abode! I'm glad you can make it! I'm currently doing some renovations.
The most exciting thing about Deep Rock Galactic is its enormous potential going into the future. The game has only officially been out for a few months, and already it has a super supportive community and the groundwork for so much excellent content. Players only have to look at long-running games like Payday 2 and Warframe to know how exponentially a game can improve over time, and when considering that Deep Rock has had arguably a much warmer reception at launch, it wouldn't be unlikely for this title to live up to those spectacularly ambitious heights. If I had to choose my favorite game to have come out this year, this would be my current pick. For Rock and Stone. If you're currently trying to deck out your own habitat, then you'll probably be looking for the best way to decorate your walls. Luckily, Displate has you covered. For those who don't know, Displate sells magnetic interchangeable artwork that you can put on your wall and replace at any time you so choose. Not only does metal look a shit ton better than a poster or painting, but with 80,000 designs on everything you could possibly imagine, it's fucking impossible to not find something you like. In response to the Chinese government making it illegal for anyone on Earth to advocate for Hong Kong's independence, Displate artists created this extra special design for viewers who want to join the Swag News team in breaking Chinese law. Using the link in the description will not only give yourself a 15% discount on the entire store, but the channel will also get a tidy commission to maintain the time machine owned by the Swag News team. If there still isn't enough incentive to finally decorate your gaming setup, Displate has committed to planting a single tree for every plate sold. Displate, because style is subjective.
I got you, King! Of